Hello everyone. This video tutorial introduces the import of database in Excel format into QSAR Toolbox. The QSAR Toolbox provides more than 60 databases consisting of about 100,000 chemicals with more than 3 million data points from different endpoints that can be used for read across or other purposes. The databases can be found in the Data module. They are divided into several main groups depending on which experimental data they have stored. Custom databases can also be used to fill data gaps. However, they need first to be imported. This video tutorial demonstrates how to import a custom database into the QSAR Toolbox following a specific file format. The file must be an Excel or comma-separated value file. If the data is in the Euclid format, it can also be imported into the QSAR Toolbox. To learn how to do that, you can watch the corresponding video tutorial. In this example, we will use the Excel format for the import into the QSAR Toolbox. The Excel spreadsheet must be organized in a certain way before the import process is started. The QSAR Toolbox works with data fields and data values. For example, the data fields are endpoint, type of method and others. The data values are the contents of the data fields, such as EC3 for endpoint, in vivo for type of method. For the import process, information on the data fields and data values must be specified in the files. Here is an example file showing how the layout should be organized. The column headings are the names of the specific data fields of the toolbox. This information is very important, because the system will try to recognize the name of data field in the file and automatically link the information in the column to the corresponding data field in QSAR Toolbox. Otherwise, the user should support it in the detection process. The first three columns contain ID information for the chemical's identification number, name and smiles. The remaining columns contain metadata about the experiment. Some of the columns are mandatory, such as smiles, endpoint path, endpoint, scale, data value and data unit. The mandatory fields define the necessary information for displaying the data in the data matrix. They need to be specified as names of the columns in the Excel file. The column endpoint path specifies the place in the endpoint tree where the data should be visualized. How to define this path? As soon as the endpoint tree is expanded, right-click and select Copy Path from a position that includes the general level and the last bolded sublevel. For example, if we need to import skin sensitization data, we need to copy the path from this position, which means it will include health hazards and sensitization as a general path. Then paste the copied text to the respective cell. The measurement of the experiment needs to be specified in the column endpoint, for example LC50. The scale contains the name of a specific scale associated with the data. For more information on the variety of scales, see the F1 help. The next two columns, data value and data unit, contain the values and the respective unit, such as milligrams per liter. The non-mandatory fields contain additional information about the experimental data, such as the reference or the authors. Although they are not marked as mandatory fields, the information in them is required to increase the reliability of the imported data. There are two layouts for the Excel import, vertical and horizontal. The vertical import is suitable for a set of chemicals with consistent experimental data and the same metadata information. The horizontal layout is suitable for a set of chemicals with different types of experimental data and different metadata information. To import the file, go to the Data section and use the Import button. The wizard consists of 3 steps. The first step allows to browse and open the file by using the Open button and to adjust the settings, for instance to configure the separator for decimal or thousands according to the local computer settings, to set how the database will be imported, to an existing or as an individual database. Let us open the file. We will use a file from the example folder. Click on the Open button and select the file. The Excel table with the information is shown. Continue with the Next button. This is the second step of the wizard where the system recognizes the data fields based on the column headings. The red messages at the top indicate columns which are not recognized by the system and need to be linked to the corresponding data fields the system is working with. As you see, there are two headings in the table. The first heading comes from the original Excel spreadsheet and the second heading is assigned by Toolbox. If both match, the Excel headings are recognized correctly and no action is required. If the heading is not recognized, action is required, as with the fourth column endpoint path. As we see, the heading is not defined, which means that the system does not know that this column contains the endpoint path. To support the detection process, the user must open the drop-down menu, text endpoint in the filter and select endpoint path from the list. The red message at the top of the window disappears. The third step of the wizard is to scroll on the right and check that the names of the columns with the metadata are correct. If everything is correct, click on the Import button. A confirmation message appears at the end. In our case, the import completes successfully with 39 data points for 34 chemicals. Finally, let's load the already imported custom database. These are the chemicals within the already imported database along with their experimental data points. Congratulations! You are now familiar with importing Excel databases into QSAR Toolbox. To learn for other Toolbox functionalities, please watch the corresponding video tutorial. Contact QSAR Toolbox Help Desk for technical questions. If your question concerns policy or regulatory acceptance of Toolbox results within the EU legislations of ECHA's competence, please refer to the ECHA website directly.